I'm wearing a Gucci slippers, Casablanca tracksuit.
Black pastors preach faith and humility, but behind the pulpit lies a world of unimaginable wealth and shocking controversies. $1-million mansions, private jets, designer wardrobes. These mega-rich black pastors live like kings, while their congregations are left wondering where all that money really goes. Power, manipulation, and secrets that could bring empires crashing down. Stay tuned as we expose the insane world of mega-rich black pastors. Mega churches. A concept that has come to light and turned into a major controversial issue is megachurches. As against the idea of the traditional church, a megachurch is usually owned and controlled by one man who leads thousands of other people. And of the many reasons people criticize megachurches is how they handle donations. Here's the thing: these churches are massive, with thousands of people attending every week. That means a lot of money comes in through offerings and donations. But the question many people ask is, where does all that money actually go? These pastors have also been criticized for spending large amounts of money on things like huge buildings, flashy events, and high-tech productions. Sure, these things might attract people and make the services look impressive, but many argue that it can take attention away from the real purpose of a church, which is teaching faith, helping the community, and fostering a deeper connection with God. Instead of focusing on spiritual growth or using those funds to help those in need, these churches come across as more about entertainment. It's even worse if these pastors are accused of spending all the money on their own needs: designer clothes, estates, and private jets. So can these men even be trusted? And what exactly do they use all of that money for? Let's start with one name that's not new to controversy: Toby Adegboyega. Pastor Toby, as he's often called, is a well-known megachurch pastor based in London. He's the founder of SPAC Nation, a congregation that became pretty famous for its flashy style, big gatherings, and focus on young people. But before all the fame, Toby's story started in Lagos, Nigeria. In 2005, he moved to London to start a new chapter in his life. Like many immigrants, things weren't easy at first. When he arrived, he shared a room with his cousin. Back then, life was very different for Toby. He worked as a kitchen porter, washing dishes, and so isn't it surprising that 11 years later he's going around in LV jackets and Bentleys? Back in 2016, the church reported having fewer than 300 members. Fast forward just 2 years, and that number had grown to over 1,000 members. By 2020, the congregation was reported to have reached around 2,000 people. However, controversies began to mount on Pastor Tony and his church. People began to notice that SPAC Nation didn't hold its Sunday services in a traditional church building. Instead, they rented high-end venues like hotels for their gatherings. On the financial side, their income also saw a big jump. In 2016, the church reported an income of £164,000. By 2018, that had skyrocketed to almost £2 million. But they were also spending big, with expenses hitting over £1 million that same year. Before anyone knew it, Toby began flaunting luxury clothes and cars. Soon enough, he purchased a £2.5 million mansion in Surrey, England. The home became a gathering spot for various public figures. Even celebrities from his home country, Nigeria, have visited the residence. But things took an even darker turn when the UK Charity Commission released a report. It turned out that Tony failed to keep track of their finances. This is about over £1.87 million in expenses that are completely unaccounted for. Where did all that money go? Allegations also surfaced that some church leaders were pressuring young members, many of them from vulnerable backgrounds, to take out loans and donate large sums of money to the church. In June 2022, SPAC Nation was unable to pay its debts to the UK Insolvency Service and had to shut down as a result. But shortly after the news broke, Pastor Toby Adegboyega announced the launch of 2 new church groups: Freedom Church and Influxence Church. He also resigned as the head of the church and is only addressed as a church leader. However, many say it's all a hoax, and the mayhem has only just begun. Mike Todd. Transformation Church is one of the most well-known megachurches in Tulsa, Oklahoma, and it is headed by Pastor Mike Todd. But you know how it is. The bigger the ministry, the bigger the controversy. And Todd here attracts every form of it.
Been in the cut for like 3 days. They thought it was sweet and started celebrating.
He's known for extreme, reckless, and unreasonable displays both in and out of the church auditorium. And of course, his lavish lifestyle has been a major point of concern. In 2021, the church bought a 6-story office building in Tulsa, Oklahoma, for $35 million. Many questioned why a church would spend so much money on real estate. Was this the right use of church funds? And while the church's big spending is public knowledge, Pastor Todd keeps his personal life secret. He hasn't shared any information about the cost of his home or where his family lives, which has left some people questioning what exactly he's hiding. But his members fear that he might not be able to keep those secrets for long because one thing about Pastor Todd, he loves to draw attention to himself. In one sermon, he drove a Tesla Cybertruck onto the church stage. He claimed it was part of his message, but not everyone was impressed. It sounds more like an unnecessary and flashy stunt, especially for a pastor. But things got even more intense in 2020 when he caused a huge uproar during one of his sermons. To demonstrate a story from the Bible where Jesus healed a blind man using spit, he spat into his hand and rubbed it on another man's face in the middle of a pandemic. It came across as disgusting and unnecessary, but things were about to get even worse. Fast forward to 2023, and the Transformation Church faced backlash again, this time over their Easter service. The event was more like a Broadway show featuring dancers, pyrotechnics, and covers of secular songs. Before anyone knew it, it went viral for the wrong reasons. In 2024 again, Pastor Todd stirred even more controversy with a dramatic sermon illustration.
I don't care so much. Over the Bible, too.
He poured syrup and whipped cream over a Bible to make an illustration. It got people talking about whether disregard for morals and values was becoming a trend amongst megachurch preachers. As for Todd, we can only hope that whatever he's hiding comes out in the open. Creflo Dollar. As someone whose last name is Dollar, he's more than determined to live it out. Let's talk about Pastor Creflo Dollar and his controversial lifestyle, especially when it comes to his expensive purchases funded through church donations. Pastor Dollar owns some high-end real estate that has raised a lot of questions. One of his most notable properties is the Fayetteville estate near Atlanta, Georgia. This massive mansion is worth around $4.3 million. It's surrounded by tall fences and stone walls, giving him and his family complete privacy and top-notch security. He also previously owned a luxurious Manhattan apartment with a stunning view of Central Park. It's reported that he later sold this property for a profit of about $1 million. In addition to these properties, Pastor Dollar has other high-value assets which have added to his image of wealth and success. But what really stirred up controversy was his request in 2015 for a $65 million Gulfstream G650 private jet. He launched a campaign called Project G650, asking his congregation and supporters worldwide to donate money for the jet. The story was that his old plane had become unsafe, and he supposedly needed the new jet to spread the gospel across the globe effectively.
In which way is this jet important for your ministry?
Well, in order for me to do what I've been called to do, the airlines, they don't fly my schedule.
The media was shocked that a pastor would ask for such a massive sum of money, especially when his congregation included people from diverse economic backgrounds. Critics questioned the morality of such a campaign, calling it excessive and out of touch with the needs of everyday people. Despite the criticism, Pastor Dollar defended his decision. He argued that the jet was essential for his ministry and would allow him to reach more people with the gospel. Was this really a necessary tool for his work, or would it be an over-the-top display of wealth that came from the donations of unsuspecting congregants? Now, besides the financial issues, Dollar has been involved in more disturbing controversies. This time, it involves his family. In June of 2012, police arrested him at his home in Fayetteville, Georgia, after an argument with his 15-year-old daughter got out of hand. Apparently, it started with a disagreement about her attending a party. Things quickly escalated, and according to the police report, Pastor Dollar's daughter claimed that he grabbed her by the throat, pushed her to the ground, and even hit her with a shoe. These were serious allegations that shocked many people, and many began to question his character and credibility as a religious leader. Not long after the incident, Pastor Dollar addressed the situation during one of his sermons. He denied all accusations and said the story had been exaggerated.
And I want to say this very emphatically.
I should have never been arrested.
He explained that while family disagreements did happen, the version of events described in the police report wasn't accurate. He was since freed of all charges after he agreed to take an anger management class and has rarely been involved in messy controversies in recent times. However, as long as he keeps making demands from his congregation, Creflo Dollar remains one of the wealthiest preachers in the world. Lamore Whitehead. Brooklyn megachurch pastor Lamore Whitehead is often in the news for all the wrong reasons. Known as the Bling Bishop for his love of flashy jewelry and luxury, Whitehead's story is one filled with drama, legal trouble, and controversy.
I don't get paid from preaching. Y'all think I want to? No, I have to follow my calling.
It all started back in 2008 when Whitehead was convicted of identity theft and spent 5 years in prison. After serving his time, he started to make moves and tried to turn his life around. In 2014, he founded the Leaders of Tomorrow International Churches, but it would appear that he had ulterior motives. Not long after the church was set up and began to gain followership, Whitehead began sporting high-end clothing and jewelry. His taste in cars changed overnight, and he suddenly began spending a lot of money on luxuries that he didn't even need. Soon enough, he became known for his love of expensive things, and one of his most talked-about purchases is a 6-bedroom mansion in Paramus, New Jersey. He bought this incredible property in 2019 for $1.64 million. The mansion is as extravagant as you'd expect with the standard of a megachurch pastor. It then led people to question how exactly he could afford such luxury, especially when church leaders are expected to live modestly. Pastor Whitehead, on the other hand, has always defended his choices. He says his lifestyle is a way to show God's favor and inspire others to aim for success in their own lives. But the question really is, should spiritual leaders live extravagantly, or does it indeed distract from their mission? As for Whitehead, it wasn't long before trouble found him. In July 2022, during a live-streamed church service, something shocking happened. He and his wife were robbed at gunpoint, just as the service was in procession. The thieves stole around $400,000 worth of jewelry right in front of the congregation and online viewers. Then came more serious legal troubles. In June 2024, Whitehead was sentenced to 9 years in prison for fraud, extortion, and making false statements. Among the charges was a terrible accusation. He had defrauded one of his parishioners out of $90,000. What makes his story even more interesting is that investigations revealed that he had close ties to public figures, including New York City Mayor Eric Adams. He would often use these connections to gain influence and get away with offenses. Well, except this one. Now, his luxurious life is nothing more than a memory. Carlton Pearson. Bishop Carlton Pearson went from being a celebrated pastor and gospel artist to being one of the most controversial figures in modern Christianity. Pearson first rose to fame in the 1980s and 1990s. He led the Higher Dimensions Family Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma, which was one of the largest churches in the area at the time, attracting over 6,000 persons for every service. In the early 2000s, however, everything changed. Pearson began preaching what he called the gospel of inclusion. He said this new belief came after he reflected on global suffering and questioned traditional Pentecostal teachings about hell. What he came to believe is that everyone was saved, regardless of their religious beliefs, and rejected the idea of hell as a place of eternal punishment. This message veered off and challenged the core beliefs of traditional Christianity and caused a huge uproar. In 2004, the Joint College of African American Pentecostal Bishops declared him a heretic, officially rejecting his teachings about universal reconciliation.
I went from hero to zero and lost it all.
The backlash from his members was also immediate and intense. Pearson's church membership plummeted, and his influence in the Christian community all but disappeared. As for his wealth, Pearson always kept the details private, maybe even secret. There isn't much public information about whether he owned luxurious homes or high-value assets, but no one could deny that he was raking in money in large amounts. Sadly, Bishop Carlton Pearson passed away on November the 19th, 2023 at the age of 70. Although he tried to retrace his steps and fall back into line, it was far too late. T.B. Joshua.
You have flirting spirits.
Yes, man of God.
This spirit is like dog. You are the one looking for men for sex.
TB Joshua, as he's often called, was one of Nigeria's most well-known and controversial religious leaders. Born in Ondo, Nigeria, he rose to fame as a pastor, televangelist, and founder of the synagogue, Church of All Nations in Lagos. Joshua was first admired for his charitable work, which included helping the poor, providing scholarships, and offering aid during crises. He was also praised by his followers for his healing services and bold prophecies, but it wasn't long before he began to stir a lot of debate and face major controversies. One of the areas of these controversies was his financial status, as estimates of his net worth varied greatly. Some sources valued it at around $150 million, while Forbes provided a more modest estimate of about $15 million. Either way, he was one of the wealthiest preachers in the world. One of the most talked about symbols of his wealth was his private jet, which cost $60 million. He was also known for his love of luxury cars. His collection included high-end vehicles from brands like Mercedes-Benz and Range Rover to match his extravagant lifestyle. However, as time went on, people began to find loopholes in his lessons. Not everyone agreed with his teachings or practices. In 2009, the Pentecostal Fellowship of Nigeria officially distanced itself from him and began questioning the authenticity of his miracles and methods.
In the church, a lot must be delivered. Out!
Things got even more intense in 2010 when the Cameroonian government blacklisted him and again accused him of performing false miracles. One of the darkest moments of his ministry happened on September 12, 2014, when a guest house on the church premises collapsed, killing at least 105 people. Of course, the incident caused outrage. In fact, investigations showed that Joshua may have been trying to cover up the tragedy and obstruct rescue operations. This man was also known for his dramatic prophecies, most of which never came true. In 2020, he predicted that the COVID-19 pandemic would end by March 27th, and of course that never happened. At this point, there was widespread skepticism amongst his followers about his so-called prophetic abilities that they often paid to get. In January 2024, a few years after his death, things took a darker turn when a BBC investigation revealed allegations of abuse within his church.
He just looked at me. He said, "Oh, yeah, sickly. Take off your pants."
The report included shocking claims of rape, torture, and forced abortions over a period of about 15 years. Victims came forward to testify with horrific stories, to the shock of the whole nation. The church, however, has refuted all claims and insisted that no such incidents ever took place. Although he's late, the church is still run by other church leaders. And from the looks of things, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Eddie Long.
I've been accused. I'm under attack. I want you to know I am not a perfect man, but this thing I'm gonna fight.
Bishop Eddie Long is the late leader of New Birth Missionary Baptist Church in Georgia. He was known for his powerful sermons and bubbly personality. And of course, Bishop Long also made headlines for his love of luxury. In 2005, Long purchased a stunning mansion in DeKalb County for $1.1 million. When it came to cars, he didn't hold back either. He was frequently seen driving a Bentley. His other luxurious cars were taken for special events and invitations. One of the most controversial aspects of Bishop Long's lifestyle was his ownership of a Gulfstream private jet, which is one of the most expensive aircraft in the world. At some point, it was even reported that funds from the church consistently covered some of the costs associated with these jets. For example, around $85,000 were reportedly paid for his plane, along with additional expenses for leases and maintenance until the aircraft were eventually sold. However, the biggest controversies surrounding Bishop Eddie Long came in 2010, when 4 young men filed lawsuits against him.
I cannot get the sound of his voice out of my head, and I cannot forget the smell of his cologne, and I cannot forget the way that he made me cry many nights when I drove in his cars on the way home.
They accused Long of using his position as a trusted spiritual leader to pressure them into relationships. According to the lawsuits, Long gave the men expensive gifts, including cars, jewelry, and trips, as a way to gain their trust and keep them close. These allegations shocked the religious community and drew massive media attention. Bishop Long was a powerful figure, leading the New Birth Missionary Baptist Church, a megachurch with tens of thousands of members. Of course, Long denied all allegations and maintained his innocence throughout the ordeal. Unfortunately for him, the damage to his reputation was already done. Surprisingly, in 2011, the cases were settled out of court, and till today, it is still suspected that he may have again bought their silence and cooperation. Unfortunately, Long passed away on January 15, 2017, at the age of 63. The church later shared that he had been battling an aggressive form of cancer. Hopefully, the worst is over. We'd love to hear your thoughts. Are these preachers helping their followers or just helping themselves? Let us know in the comments. Also, you wouldn't want to miss out what we have put for you here on how these black pastors spend their millions. Check it out.